pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Reminder to silence your cell phones, please. Ms. Settles, would you have the roll call?
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Peru will be absent tonight.
Mr. Brooks is back.
Commissioner Brooks will also be absent tonight. Commissioner Galbraith,
Present.
Commissioner Allen Edwards. Present. We do have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item tonight is the approval of the minutes. First, Mayor and Commission, you've been distributed electronically a copy of the regular meeting minutes from November the 26th, 2019. At your pleasure, we will entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
We have a motion to read a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions for the minutes? Hearing none, clerk, would you roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards.
Approved.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Also, we need, next up is approval of the special meeting from December the 3rd, 2019.
Motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then we also had a special called workshop meeting on December the 3rd, 2019. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mayor and Commission, we do have a special presentation on the agenda tonight, and at this time, we would like to recognize a representative from Kentucky League of Cities, Assistant Executive Director J.D. Cheney, and also with him as a member of the board, Mayor Mike Hughes from Auburn, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Just saddle up here,
Yes, sir, please do.
just like Frankfurt, right?
You've been there a little bit today, right?
A little bit, yeah. Thank you, Mayor,
Sure.
Darren, Stephanie, members of staff, Brian, all of you members of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you all for allowing us to come share with you all tonight some good news, stuff you probably already know about your state senator. Each year, our Board of Directors votes on legislators who advance the cause of city government, either by sponsoring a bill or by killing bad legislation. Sometimes they have to kill the bad stuff, and our Board of Directors votes on those that are worthy of the award. We do not have PACs that give campaign contributions. We don't endorse candidates. We don't do those silly report cards that you see some organizations point out. So we don't influence the political process that way. What we have is an argument for good government, that local decisions are best made at the local level, and we make those policy arguments and try to convince legislators to advance the cause of city governments. And when those that step out do so, all we have is an award to express that appreciation for the service that they provide. Your all state senator, it's no secret to you all, is one of the biggest friend of city governments that's serving in the state legislature out of all 138 of them. Last session, Senator West sponsored Senate Bill 191, which dealt with a number of issues, complex issues related to city finance. In fact, I probably even have to yield to him to explain the bill and a lot of the parts of the bill. But one of the things it did was deal with garnishment of public funds. Every other state in the nation had prohibited the garnishment of public funds on judgments. Well, this legislation fixed that. The process for publishing notices related to bonds. You probably get to take advantage of that looking at your all's agenda today, to not have to pay the newspaper to publish those items to save cities a little money and streamline that process. It was a very comprehensive bill. Let me say beyond that, as you all know,
Newspaper
as you all know, it was a good bill. But as you all know, it goes well beyond just carrying that piece of legislation. You can always go in Senator West's office. He's always going to be analytical, engaging, shoot you straight on every issue, and he's always interested in where cities stand on the variety, the hundreds of bills that pass across his desk. I'm proud to personally call him a friend, and our board of directors is proud to award him, I think, his third. Hadn't served more than 5 years. Been in 5 before.
Going on 5.
Going on 5. 3 of the 5. He's been awarded a Friend of Cities award. So that is very, very impressive. So, Mayor Hughes, on behalf of the board, we just congratulate Senator West.
We'd like to congratulate him and thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight. I appreciate it. From the board's perspective, we wish Paris well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What we would like to do is, Mayor and Commission and our team members here would to get a group photo right after you do the presentation, and we'll line up over by the flags.
Perfect. You got to come up here and get this thing.
Is the citizen still going to take my picture since I did it? We're going to black it out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Own this thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, if we can. Senator West, do you want to say a few words before we take a group photo?
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll just hold my comments for when I do my
Okay,
presentation.
all right, well, then we'll get over there.
All right, perfect. Bear with me, City Clerk. Thank you, award.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You need to be in.
J.D. Cheney.
You're with the League of Cities, right?
Yeah, I'm deputy director.
Mike Hughes, I'm the mayor in Auburn, Kentucky, down next to Bowling.
Thank you.
Give him a moment.
We'll put a tall.
Go ahead. Nope. You're good.
Oh, so look good on the back page.
In that supplement, Baldy.
I'm gonna take my turn so you all weren't looking in the other direction. Okay.
I mean, different. Thanks, I appreciate you. Thanks, Senator.
All your family well?
So to echo just a few of the things that Mr. Cheney mentioned in his remarks, for my short time being appointed to the position, I had one of the first folks that I did have a chance to meet was Senator West, and I appreciate, had known just for the few years prior to me coming to Paris, had known of your work on the benefit of the cities, and appreciate that so much. As you well know in the conversations we've had, we've got some opportunities to look at some things, and looking forward to this next legislative session. So, but again, from our team here at City of Paris, we appreciate all that you do for not only us as public servants, but for the citizens of Paris and Bourbon County and our whole area. Thank you. And at this time, Senator West, we would ask for you to come forward and kind of give us a few remarks about the upcoming legislative updates, or any legislative updates you want to give us, or anything else you want to share with us tonight.
Sure, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. In all seriousness, it's a true pleasure to work with KLC. JD does a great job, and just from our perspective on the legislative level, JD's not going to let you get by with much. He's going to vocally convey the interest of cities, and he does a great job. His whole team does a great job, And what I like about JD and his group is not only do they ask you to do things, but they keep you informed, and you have all the material you need to carry a bill or push some legislation through. So thank you to JD, and I really appreciate the award. It's been a pleasure to work with him. What I would like to do tonight, you asked me to do a legislative update. I'm just going to try to hit some of the high points of the session, and then I was going to open up briefly for questions, kind of let you all guide me and let you all, maybe you're thinking of something that I don't know about, and I'm sure you'll have questions. Someone will have questions. And I know time is important, so I'll make it quick. Want to start out with the bad. I always like to start out with the bad stuff first. Get it out of the way first. But the number one thing that we have to deal with this coming session is pensions. That's going to be a broken record for the next 15, 20 years probably or more. Kentucky is the worst funded pension system in the United States. It goes back and forth a little bit. We're neck and neck with Illinois. We're fighting for that position, but we're number 50 in the United States. Probably 40 to 60 billion is kind of the range that you hear. 40 to 60 billion unfunded liability. And we can spend the next hour talking about how we got there and what we need to do to get out of that. But just want to put that on your radar. That will consume a lot of time. That will consume a lot of budget. And excuse me. Secondly, Medicaid. That will be our what I would say our number 2 issue to deal with. We have Medicaid expansion. And when we first did Medicaid expansion under the Beshear administration, the federal government was picking up 100% of the TAP. And as part of the legislation, the state is going to be required to pick up a portion of that TAP, and that portion starts to kick in. 10% portion starts to kick in. So you're looking at probably $200 million in new revenue, new monies that we'll have to find somewhere to fill that Medicaid hole. We also have a huge problem. The state just settled a Medicaid lawsuit. That's looking like $400 million. So when you're looking at a $12 billion budget, those numbers are pretty high. I am proud of the work we did last time on pensions, and I'll get to that in a second. Quasi-governmental entities, staying on pensions just a second. We went into special session and we passed a bill dealing with quasi-governmental entities because the reason that special session was called is they had a stepped-up basis or a stepped-up contribution level that was getting ready to go into effect. They were going from 46, 49%, many of those up to 83, 84%. And if we hadn't called the special session, several of those entities would have gone bankrupt. And when we talk about quasi-governmental entities, we're talking about health departments, some of your university systems, not UK, U of L, but a lot of your comprehensive universities were in that grouping. Comprehensive mental health facilities, those type of facilities. So it's important. Those issues seem like they're out there in the stratosphere a little bit at times, but for counties and cities, they affect your bottom line big time. And good news is, I think Bourbon County, the health department, has been in pretty good hands. And I talked to Drew the other day, and I know he's not head of now, but they did a pretty good job, and they're fairly stable. But other health departments are not in the same boat. That's what I consider the bad news. There's plenty of other bad news, and we could talk a lot more, but those are the big ticket items that are going to affect when you talk about $1 million questions, when you talk about $200,000 questions. All those small budget items are affected by the overarching, we got to find money to fill holes. So getting back to pensions just a little bit, I'm proud of the work we've done so far. My first real session was 2016, and since that time, at last budget, we fully funded the pension systems, especially the KTRS, the Teachers Retirement System. First time in many, many years it's been fully funded. That's the good news. We put an extra $1 billion into KTRS. So you have the statutorily required contribution, and then you have the amount that the system needs to be fully funded. So in years past, many times the legislature and governor were only funding the statutorily required contribution and not what was needed. So we funded the statutorily required contribution, and then we also funded what was needed above and beyond the SRC. So, and that amount was $1 billion. Like I said, our total biannual budget is about $22 billion. So if you talk about putting an extra $1 billion into something, that was a heavy lift. And we had to beg, borrow, and steal from where we could to find those funds to fund KTRS. The teachers' retirement system is very important because if you look at the size of all the pension systems, it's the largest. So it's the hardest to fix because it's the largest system. If you want to compare apples to apples, compare things, a good comparison that the best analogy I've seen is KTRS is a basketball, KERS is a baseball, state police, and legislative is really small in comparison to those systems. Another thing we did last time is we put $18 million. That was the contribution that was going into the legislative and judicial pension system. That was allocated over to the KERS system. So that was swept out of the budget. The contribution that was supposed to go to our retirement was moved over to KERS. So we feel like it's a small amount, but it was a way to show that we're serious about fixing the systems. Good news, economic development is through the roof. Governor Bevin and his group, and I'm sure you've talked to these guys along the line. You had Terry Gill and Vivek Serene, and most recently you had Aaron Persley. Did a fantastic job along with the governor in bringing new business to the state. During Governor Bevin's tenure, I think it was about $22 billion total. As I was coming in 2016, the previous record was $5 billion for any given year. And in that 2017 year, the state brought in $9.2 billion. So not only were we breaking records, we were blowing them out of the water. And to that effect, you're looking at, in the past 4 years, 55 to 60,000 new jobs in the state. And we've seen that right here in Paris, Bourbon County. We've seen a bunch of groundbreakings and wonderful news. We have some wonderful people here tonight. Hunt Brothers Pizza is one of those, and we have AgTech, and we have CMWA. And hopefully with the new administration, we can continue that momentum, and even though it's a Democrat administration, I will do my best and everything I can to work with this new administration and the people they put in place to continue that momentum. So we have companies continuing to invest in Kentucky and Bourbon County. I'm going to drill down a little bit real quick, make my comments a little bit more local. The paper has their articles, but you got to toot your own horn every now and then when you get an opportunity to. But no offense. And by the way, that newspaper part, that was just a small part of the bill on the bond. Just a very small part of the bill.
It'll be the headline.
I expected no less. The Citizen does a great job in seriousness. I really appreciate the Citizen. US 460. I've been working on that project ever since that I came to Frankfort, and we had it in the budget, the road plan. It was moving along pretty well. We were starting to do right-of-way acquisition and utilities, and there was $4 million in the road plan. That was already being spent on 460, and then the construction money was soon to follow on the stretch from Paris to the county line. So you were looking, it was on track, and I think you were probably looking at a 4 to 5 year build out from start to finish from Paris to the county line. But with this new federal grant that the county has just received, the good news is it's $10 million, but what that will do is that will speed up the process greatly. So within the grant definition itself, I believe that there are strict deadlines and timeframes. So in order for the grant to be appropriated, that road has to be built by a certain time. So that's good news for Bourbon County and Paris, that a very unsafe roadway between here and Georgetown will be repaired. It's not 4-lane, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's going to be a really nice road and hopefully a lot better from a safety standpoint. The good news also on that is it gets it off our plate. I no longer have to worry about that. That's complete. Now I can focus on Centerville to the rest of the way on into Georgetown and trying to twist Senator Thayer's arm and get him on board with that section of roadway. So that's good news. High Street, more good news on High Street. I've been working on that for a while, bothering a lot of people. We need to get High Street fixed. The good news, the best news is that they're not just putting a Band-Aid on it. We're not putting a Band-Aid on it. That could have been paved cheaply, rip up the surface, put down new pavement, but this job is going to be done properly. Apparently it's a full-scale build-out. They will go below grade, fix issues below grade, build it back up, compact it, and come back up. So really excited that job has been let, and if you hear complaints on High Street, you can tell people that help is on the way. And Stan and I talked to Stan the other night. I think it's important for the city to be out in front on that particular project and communicate with the citizens and get out in front with business owners and work with District 7, let them know ahead of time what's coming to prevent some of the problems maybe in the past that we had when Main Street was redone. I've already talked about economic development, just want to continue to work on that. Another issue, I actually worked with the Kentucky League of Cities a couple years ago on a bill dealing with entertainment districts. And this is a suggestion of, I don't know what the city's done on this, but my bill a few years ago lowered the fee for an entertainment district license. And if you're in the state of Kentucky, you have entertainment districts like Fritz Farms in Lexington, 4th Street Live in Louisville. Those are entertainment districts, and those districts pay about $7,500 a year to the state for a license. What that does is loosens up restrictions on carrying open containers, and so people can have a drink. They can have a drink at one location, and they can walk down the sidewalk to another location, and there's not as much problems with the alcohol laws and things like that. So my bill basically reduced. If you're a city government, county government, you can pay a much reduced fee to the state. I think it was some odd number. It was like 2,330, something like that. The reason we didn't do 2,500 is because they just took 7,500 divided by 3. So there was ABC required we do that number, but it's a greatly reduced amount. They've already done it in Maysville with great success, and my suggestion is the city of Paris to look at that for our downtown area to help with economic development, tourism, that sort of thing. That's all the comments I have. The main thing I want to leave you with is it's truly an honor to represent Paris and Bourbon County. I'm humbled to do this job, and I'm very, very positive about Bourbon County and Paris. I think we have all the right people in all the right places and all the right times, and we have really good economic numbers, and we have a lot of really good news. And I think in the past we haven't had the growth that counties around us have had. In some ways that's good, in some ways that's bad. But the best part is I think we're poised now, because we've grown slowly and properly. I think we're poised for some quality growth in Bourbon County and Paris. So thank you once again for having me, and look forward to any questions you may have.
Mayor, Commissioners, do you have? Commissioner Allen Edwards?
No, not tonight, you're off.
The one thing, and again, I wanted to talk about was the restaurant tax, a local restaurant tax. I know in years past, it had to deal with city sizes and things when they had that. And I think now there should be a way, and I know Darren and some of us have been in different groups and things, Senator, talking about, being able to impose a restaurant tax locally, and then, again, the funding from that, and I've seen some numbers based upon 1% and 2% and 3%, and I think 3% is the maximum amount that a restaurant tax can be locally. But I've seen some of those numbers, and I was shocked at the numbers when you see them out there at 1%, 2%, and 3%. So I'm hoping that some legislation will move forward to where they could, I guess, push that back down to local cities and what have you, and let us make the decision versus it being done in Frankfurt and things of that nature. So that's the only comment I have for you.
On that issue, I know just enough to be dangerous.
Well, me too.
I know JD, I'm sure, knows a lot on this issue. We can bring him up here on that. I can talk globally about taxes. I meant to talk about them in my comments, but when we did the increase in the pension funding, we did tax reform that same year. And that we broadened the base, so we applied the sales tax to more goods and services. Okay, and at the same time, we lowered the income tax, personal and corporate, down to an even 5. So at the same time, we did not raise the sales tax. So Kansas and some other states, when they did tax reform, they went whole hog, so to speak. So they broadened the base and they raised the sales tax and just completely did away with the income tax. And what you saw there was they had a lot of problems with funding because they did it too quickly and they didn't do it in phases. So we did tax reform, but I will tell you, it was a tax increase. It was not a net tax decrease because we gained more money from broadening the base than the lowering of the income taxes. That was probably a $200 to $300 million tax increase. That money went into the general fund, but as you've already heard me say, it went in the general fund, then went out of the general fund to things like pensions. The good news on that is there's more room left for additional tax reform. Like we could raise the sales tax and then continue to lower income tax. We could raise the rate, we could get into more broadening of the base if we wanted to. The reason I bring that up is we've heard a lot about local option sales tax. And the reason I hear people in Frankfurt saying we don't want to touch that is they didn't want to touch that unless it was part of an overall tax discussion. So that's why you haven't seen any movement on that. I can't talk specifically about pending legislation on the restaurant tax, but anything above that, especially if you're talking about local option sales tax, will have to be part of the next phase of tax reform. Yeah, because I envision when we start talking about pensions, the problem with pensions and the unfunded liability is, I told you we put an extra $1 billion into KTRS. The problem is it doesn't stop there. There's the needs of the pension systems will continue to do this. So we're going to have to do either some type of reform, we're going to have to raise taxes again, or do additional cuts. So that's what we're looking at. And when some say just fund it, just fund the system, well, it's a little more complicated than that. If you fund it, what that means is get the money from the taxpayers. So there's 2 ways you get money from taxpayers: taxes or decreased services, decreased government services. So that's where we are in that. I know that was a long answer, but
What's the timeline on High Street?
the timeline on High Street, they just let the project, and Darren actually may know more about it.
And we've got that on the agenda later on, but they did make an award to a company for the main in High Street. The actual, when it was let, it had an October 31st of 2021 deadline, wasn't it? for that project to be. But we'll get some more information later in the meeting on that.
What's the, when you transfer with an all-new Democratic cabinet and so forth, how do you view that in terms of, is the transition period delay and slow down some things? Is it something that you can work through? You know, what's the reaction with changing the administration?
I think it absolutely delays things. The thing that worries me the most is any type of momentum with economic development. And that's not, you know, that's nothing negative against the new administration. That's just basic logistics, you know, getting people in seats and you know, no matter who they are, once they're in those positions, you do get used to working with people. And you can, you know, you have their cell phone numbers in your cell phone. And so it just takes time to get all that new information and to find out who's actually in that position. So as far as day-to-day, like for instance, District 7 transportation issues, I don't see any type of problem there. You're going to have the same engineers and the same people working on those day-to-day issues. But when you talk about high-level economic development, you know, those type of issues, I think that's where you have the most problem.
The new governor has said education is going to be the highest priority. Does that mean that you're going to take money from other places? How's that going to affect the budget?
Well, I'll throw this out there. Education has been a top priority, even in the Evan administration during the last 4 years. We have, just to lay out like facts of what actually happened to the education budget last year. I heard a lot of disinformation, but $50 million was cut from KDE, which is the Kentucky Department of Education. At the same time, we plussed up the SEEK formula to the tune of $34 million. So what the SEEK formula, basically what that means, SEEK means that's the money the state pays per pupil that goes directly to your local districts, okay? So if you say the state cut education, you can say we cut it 15 to 20 million overall, but all those cuts came from Frankfort KDE. So what you should see is less money in Frankfort KDE and a lot more money at the local district level. That's what actually happened in the last budget. On top of that, if you want to talk education, an additional $1 billion went into the Kentucky Teachers Retirement System. So that helps, not only does that help with individual teachers' retirements, it also helps, you know, the local districts when they have to deal with possible increases in their contribution levels. So, and furthermore, of our overall budget, the overall state budget, 60% of our state budget is education. So the idea that education isn't funded properly, I understand, and I came into this office at a really, really bad time. It's hard to do this job when you don't have the money to give what you should. I understand. I'm all for backfilling education budgets. But it's going to be really difficult to do with our pending issues coming up with additional pension requests and Medicaid. And I know the governor has proposed, I think, pay increases for teachers, and that's fine. I could be for that, but with his budget, he'll have to find someplace on the other side of the ledger to pull that from.
Mayor, did you have?
I was just thinking, I've always wanted to know, the lottery money, that's supposed to go to education. Is it all completely education, or?
It does now. So in years past, you're correct. The Kentucky lottery money, sometimes it was swept, sometimes it was used for other things. But starting sometime in the last 4 years, I'm not sure which year in particular, we, within budget, through budgetary, I'm on the Appropriations and Revenue Committee, so through budgetary language, we mandated that all lottery funds were to go to education and their intended sources. A lot of that money goes to the key scholarships and things of that nature, but as of right now, all money from the lottery funds go to education. Yeah.
And one other thing I'd like to know, this 460, is it gonna be widened, sort of like Cynthiana Road? And is it gonna be passing lanes like Falmouth, going toward Falmouth? Or is
An expert is in the room. Gordon Wilson could probably answer better than I could. And by the way, it's been a pleasure to work with Gordon Wilson and Matt Cook at EDA, and I've worked with them closely on a lot of these projects like Ag Tech and others. But like I said, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that we would have liked. But the best example that I know to tell you is something like 62 between Cynthiana and Georgetown. It's going to have, I think, a 3-foot shoulder, paved shoulder, and then an additional grass shoulder. And then they are going to do a lot of sight distance improvements, and they're going to kind of cut down some hills and some curves in different places to improve safety. They're also going to do some pull-off lanes for tractor trailers if they have to pull off and they have a problem at various places in the road. So it won't be like 27 between here and Cynthiana. That you won't have as much shoulder,
right?
But it will be significantly improved. You know, you can always, when the money allows, you can always come back later and improve it further. So.
Well, thank you.
The $2,000 proposal raise for every teacher, what's the cost of that?
I saw the 2,000, but I honestly don't know the total. I don't know what that total is. I would say it would be significant, but I really don't know.
It has to be significant, but it was a campaign promise.
It was. And you know, that's good. You know, our teachers, we're having problems with teacher shortages and those sorts of things, so that could help with that. A secondary problem that you got to think about when you're making those decisions, though, is when you do a $2,000 increase, you also got to include the percentage for pensions. So every time you do a pay increase, you're going to have to pay that additional percentage. It's going to be paid by state and local districts. So that's something to think about. It's not just the $2,000, it's the additional also tacked on. So sorry, I don't have the information right now. I'm sure I'll find out soon. Probably in January.
Senator, we won't be, again, we appreciate your time and taking the night, but we do recognize that you may have some other commitments. But before, I'd be remiss before I let you out of here, again, just say thank you for work that you've done for us, and look forward to continuing that. I would put a plug in to follow up with Commissioner Gallagher's question in regards to the restaurant tax. I think that as a legislative body, all this body is looking for us to have the same opportunity to consider that on a local level, that those current class cities that were 4th and 5th class cities previously, that those existing have, and just make it all classes have that opportunity.
If you want an immediate update, we have the gentleman in the room. So if JD happens to know, I'm going to put him on the spot. I do this.
JD and I've had quite a few conversations on this as well. So.
I was thinking that was something that KLC supported. Number 4 on the most wanted list.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right behind CERS, pension issues, separation, road funding formula, and then the tax equity issue. Paris is in the same boat as Mayfield, Florence, old 3rd-class cities.
That's right.
Winchester, and then the old 2nd-class cities are doing the. I'm sorry, I disrespectfully did not speak into the microphone. I apologize. The old 2nd-class cities, which are the Richmonds, Ashlands, Newports, Paducahs, Bowling Green, Owensboro, Henderson, Frankfort, those cities. That's really important to them. In fact, a lot of the local Chamber of Commerce groups in those communities have come out and endorsed allowing all cities to have that option. And the legislation, it is an equitable piece of legislation. we in Madison County, where I live, in Richmond, you go down the street a little ways to Berea. Berea has it, Richmond doesn't. But it really gets tense in Hardin County when you've got two cities, Elizabethtown and Radcliffe, about the same exact size, just based on an arbitrary classification from 5 years ago. One of them can do it, Elizabethtown can't, Radcliffe can't, and it gets really intense. And so the request is just as you phrased it, which is give all cities and local officials the ability to exercise those tools if they want to. If not, then you can proceed in another way. The good piece about the legislation on the restaurant business, I'm going to be more careful than I was with the newspapers, with the restaurant business, is that it would eliminate the requirement that they pay either a net profits or gross receipts tax if you opted to do that. And so it would function more like a consumption-based tax rather than a tax on productivity when you take it off of net profits, which is kind of the tax policy that we've been encouraged by state policymakers and economic development directors around the state to pursue. So I think that's an attractive element. I think anybody who tells you for sure what's going to happen in Frankfurt, given the change in the administration, given the filing deadline that looms January 10th on who's going to draw opponents, all 100 House members are. Half of the Senate's all up for election. And so politics will play into a lot of this policy debate about what the willingness is going to be. I'm optimistic. We got a lot more support than we have in the past for that. And I'm going to go meet with Senator West sometime first week of January too, and bring him fully into the loop.
Is there a pre-filed bill?
There's no pre-filed bill yet. Now that gives these contract lobbyists too long to look at it and criticize it.
Well, thank you, JD. And the other thing that we mentioned, and we had mentioned about pensions, and I did notice that last week, I think the new rates were established for approximately 32% for non-hazardous and 57% for hazardous. I know that the cap of the 12% increase is still in play. This body elected in their last budget to go ahead and budget as an all-in, so because we're going to have to be there anyway. And so to go ahead and get ahead of that. But that still is an increasing concern as we look at budgets here on the local level. And so any options that we have to have this legislative body to consider other opportunities for revenue enhancements, that we can take those monies where we're currently paying them out and have another revenue source that we can put money back into the pension side, much like the state's looking at as well, would be a great benefit.
Absolutely. I agree. One thing, thank you, Jay, appreciate it. And I'm sorry, I just thought about it, but one thing I do want to put on your radar also, I can't believe I forgot to put it on my sheet, my copious notes, but road plan.
Yes.
That's going to be a big issue. You're probably looking at proposals to do a gas tax, an increased gas tax. Depending on the wording in the legislation, I'll probably be in favor of that. What you have right now, Kentucky's system, our road plan is totally funded through the gas tax, the wholesale price of gas. So nobody thought that gas would go down in price. Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry, I
sir.
get to rush. We got another appointment. What about electric vehicles?
That's what I was getting to from the proposal that I've seen. It'll be a comprehensive overhaul. It'll be a gas tax increase, but it'll also affect electric vehicles, where those type of vehicles, when you purchase them, would pay an additional fee for usage. So that's in the works. Want to explain why I would be for. I'm not normally for increased taxes, but in this case I would be. Our road plan is now, the total size is about 1.5, 1.6 billion. Under existing circumstances, it is stretched to the limit as far to get infrastructure repaired and replaced. Years past, we had toll roads in Kentucky, and they were done away with, and as part of that procedure, the Fed said, if you'll eliminate these tolls, we'll give you toll credits. So a large sum of money would come back to the state in the form of toll credits, and we've been getting those toll credits for years. Kentucky's toll credits are getting ready to expire. And those toll credits are in the magnitude of $200 to $300 million. So we're, it's going to be devastating to the road plan. So we need a new additional revenue in the road plan. To give you some comparison, Indiana's road tax is 42 cents a gallon. Kentucky's road tax is 26 cents a gallon. So compared to other states, we are lower than other states that surround us in gas tax, and especially in case of a place like Indiana, we're significantly lower. So you'll hear a lot about that. That's all I've got. I know I've taken up a lot of time.
No, that's great. We appreciate you do taking the time to do that, and look forward to working with you in whatever way that we can, and providing you any information from the city's perspective that may be beneficial to you as you go through the session. Aaron, Commissioner, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
Oh, I thought you were going right there and rough them up.
We're going to meet later.
All right, we do not have any members of the public sign up for the public comment section, so we will move to all business action items. First up, second reading of an ordinance concerning the issuance of industrial revenue bonds for the Hunt Advantage Group project. Mr. Bowman.
Yes, I'll be glad to read it. Or, yes, oh, Aaron's reading it. She knows what's in it. Well, yeah, why don't you guys come on up to the table, I'll go ahead and read this by title. An ordinance of the City of Paris, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of 2 series of industrial revenue bonds having a combined aggregate principal amount of up to $13,900,000 and designating the City of Paris, Kentucky Industrial Building Revenue Bond Series 2019 Hunt Advantage Group project and the City of Paris, Kentucky Industrial Revenue Bond Series 2019 Seed Time and Harvest project for the purpose of financing an industrial building project, approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease agreement between the city as lessor and Hunt Advantage Group LLC as lessee, a lease agreement between the city as lessor and Seed Time and Harvest LLC as lessee, separate bond purchase agreements providing for the issuance, sale, and delivery of each series of the bonds and providing for their negotiated sale, and finally, other related documents and taking other related actions. So this is the first act of the city, is to pass this ordinance. There will be a number of bond documents associated with the closing that the mayor and I will need to assist and attend when we get that scheduled. We need to make sure that we have that obviously for your calendar. So with that, we'll turn it over to Erin and her team.
Like you said, this is the ordinance for the authorization of 30-year industrial revenue bonds for the expansion of the existing facility. It is done as a 2-pronged project, one through Seed Time and Harvest and one through the Hunt Advantage Group. And that is done because Seed Time and Harvest will hold the real estate, and Hunt Advantage Group will hold the tangible personal property. For ownership purposes, they're a little bit different. It's a 30-year bond issuance, but the city has the option of terminating early if for any reason the facility is vacated, or if by year 20 of the 30-year, Hunt Advantage Group and Seed Time and Harvest haven't created 30 additional jobs on top of the 49 that are already there. This bond issuance is really a method of ownership of the facility, having the city facilitate ownership. It's mainly a method of creating an incentive. It's not a true bond financing. It's not a revenue, or there's not a way of funding the actual expansion, because the actual money is actually going to be done through retirement through the lease payments from Seed Time and Harvest and Hunt Advantage Group. So none of the city's bonding authority is being utilized. They're not, the city's not on the line. There's no risk of default on these. So at the end of the day, it's really just a structure to assist with some incentives to make the project a little more feasible for the company.
So as was talked about at the last meeting, this project was initially approached in, I think it was 2017. And this is an expansion out in the industrial park, and there were about 40-some jobs that were there at the time. This would be to retain the companies and the great reputation and relationship that the city and the community has with Hunt Brothers Pizza. I think that you covered it at length, but the bottom line is that the city is not collecting the property taxes on the new project. There is a separate agreement with the school system where this sits, which is the Bourbon County School System. And we've seen all the letters of support that have come from the superintendent and the CFO for that. So, Aaron, did you want to?
Yes, we sincerely appreciate the city and of course the county for supporting this opportunity for us to benefit from these incentives that allows for us to continue to focus on growth. The technology we're pouring into this building is fantastic, and which will allow us to connect with our team members that are spread out across 20 states. Of our 200 team members, we have about 50 here in Paris now, with of course plans to grow to better serve the field. We just had a wonderful Christmas celebration in Nashville, celebrating the success of our local companies and our partnership with the other distributors of Hunt Brothers Pizza. And it was truly a celebration of what God has blessed us with. And we continue to be proud to be a part of the Paris Bourbon County community, giving back in a number of ways. So that will continue. Thank you.
So this is the second reading. You all would need a motion and a second. Discussion, questions?
Let's have a motion and second, then I've just got a couple of questions. I've already alerted them to the fact.
So do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
The ordinance concerning the issuance of the industrial revenue
Now,
bonds.
discussion. There were two things that I thought about. On the 13.9, in here it keeps referencing a combined aggregate principle, and I would assume that there is a detailed listing of those expenses.
As they're incurred, there will be a detailed listing that both Seed Time and Harvest and Hunted Vantage Group are both pulling off that 13 number.
Yes, but combined, that would equal to the 13.9
That's
million.
correct, sir. That's correct, yeah.
13.9 million.
13.9 million, yes, combined for the both.
Right, okay.
Absolutely, yes.
And then the other thing, when Tim was here last, I think he talked about that you all were going to meet again, I think maybe Dennis or something, with the school systems again, and talk about, because the number that was reflected in some older documents, I think back in 2017, threw out, maybe I've used the wrong term, didn't throw out a number, but it referenced $9,200. But if I was under the impression from Tim, he said that they were going, or you all were going to talk with the school system now that that number is gone. At that time it was like 6.9. It's now, the numbers have changed. And I just wondered, had that meeting taken place and a new number been arrived at?
It has, and I apologize, I didn't introduce myself before. I'm actually Tim Eichler's partner with Stalking and Ogden and Stephen Sherman, sorry. Yes, the new number has been, it's in that letter of support. The pilot payment to the schools, the payment in lieu of taxes is now 26%. It's a percentage rather than a lump sum number now.
Oh.
And that is in their letter of support that has been discussed and agreed to.
Okay, and what made me think about that is when Senator West was here and he talked about the seat money, because it referenced in one of those documents the seat money, and then there was another formula that the state uses, and that's what made me think about, have you all, I don't say reaffirmed, or you've gotten with them to come up with, quote, a new number?
We did. We reran the numbers with everything that's happening now, and we worked with the school district, and we have made them whole, and that's what that pilot is for, is to make sure that they are in agreement. So we're there.
And that number is in the letter
It
from
is.
the superintendent.
Correct.
That's a number that we haven't, okay, that's a number that we're not privileged to at this point.
Yeah, we just got it second.
Oh, yeah, the letter of support was sent on this afternoon. You all can have it,
Oh,
absolutely.
no. I was just saying, I thought I missed something that was in my packet.
Right.
And I thought, okay.
No.
Okay, all right.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards.
Approved.
Motion
Approved.
carries.
Now, we'd like to have a tour here pretty soon.
Please, a private tour, of course. A group tour with pizza and wings.
Okay.
I'm invited, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for
Thanks, Steve.
the family's
Thank you.
investment over
Thank
the
you.
years into our community and choosing to stay here. And we're glad to partner with you and help
Absolutely.
facilitate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Your father
Appreciate you very
your
much.
father will be very proud.
Thank you, Mayor. We lived in the same neighborhood, didn't we?
That's right.
We did. For many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, officer.
The next item under our old business action item is an update regarding the Chief of Police Search Committee. As we learned at our last commission meeting, there was 40 some odd applicants. Not all of them met the minimum requirements to be considered. That was called down and pared down to 9, I believe. And those 9 were distributed to the search committee for review and recommendations back to our HR director. That committee has not had the opportunity to meet again to look over those. With the holidays, we're going to be trying to get that committee together because we do understand, the importance of this, but we also want to have all the committee members participate before we get down to a number that may be invited in for an interview. So, Aaron, do you have anything else?
And I got all the final responses from every committee member as of this morning. So we are moving forward.
Okay. Is there any questions of the commission in regards to the process and the status of such? Next item, Duncan Avenue Bridge Project update. After our special call meeting last week to approve the documents and execution of those documents the mayor signed, I drove those to Frankfurt and handed off to Transportation Cabinet staff. We have not received them back. They were awaiting the signatures from the Transportation Cabinet. However, we understand that there is no issues or anything that will prevent that from being done, or that may have already done, and we just haven't received them back.
Well, I did receive it. That's what I
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just Stephanie this morning.
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that, so, okay.
I apologize.
No, that's fine. So then we did get them back. And so now that they have been fully executed, we will move forward with Eminent Services and allowing them to get on their schedule and look at the project. That was what we were waiting for to move forward with. The successful bidder of that was that response from the state of this week.
And they also talked about closure on the bridge in order to speed the process up.
Yeah, 10 full days.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 weeks or something, plus or minus, and they wanted to get the project done.
Right.
Weather permitting will be a big factor
Sure,
in
okay.
that, but we will work with not only the neighborhood in that area, the general public, but also the school systems to look at and coordinate that project. It'd be nice if the weather would cooperate and they were ready to move over the Christmas break.
It's not looking good for the next.
So we will be moving forward with that. All right, this next item is the KYTC project update on Main and High Street, and as the senator mentioned, and we briefly discussed. Mike, you want to give us?
Well, I will say that after the bid opening, it looked, didn't look promising. And a handful of people got on the telephone and called numerous, including Senator West. And I want to thank him and the others for making this happen. They refigured the engineering estimates and awarded the bid to Walker Construction in Mount Sterling, and look forward to working with the project manager and getting this lined out. And it'll be a major inconvenience on a lot of people, but after all is said and done, it will change the looks of our community. I think everybody will appreciate what's being done.
And as a reminder, this project not only covers High Street from basically the top of the hill all the way down until it intersects Main Street, but also Main Street in from the O'Kins to just past that intersection with High Street. And also includes the opportunity to address stormwater runoff. And that was a portion of the project. And if you were driving on Main Street last night or any time recent where we've had heavy rains, The need for that is very obvious. Actually, a car in front of me last night was able to correct and not have an accident, but they hit a big puddle of water, and so we're looking forward to working with that. But as Mr. Withrow mentioned, this will be a big undertaking. It will be not without some logistical issues to coordinate through, and still that will come up, and we'll be in front meeting with Transportation Cabinet staff and in our previous meetings with them, and they were willing to entertain this, and I think they were willing to fulfill this, is that we'll actually host some public meetings about that and their ideas and suggestions on that before it gets started.
Yes, more to come.
Any additional questions on that? Mr. Withrow, master water meter installation update.
The second of 3 meters have been installed. CI Thornburg, the company that we bought them from, will be in the next week or so to calibrate and get them online, put the transducers on. We have one yet that goes on North Middletown Road. And
Where was the second?
out actually on Georgetown Road in front of Hunt Brothers Diesel.
Any questions regarding that, Mike? Next item is taxpayer location services update. We did receive 2 submissions to our call for that. Vetting those, there was a couple of items that came in on both of them, and I've reached out for some additional clarification. My intent is to work through that and find that and be able to bring you a recommendation at the first meeting in January. Is there any questions in regards to that? Last item under old business action items, water and wastewater engineering services recommendation. In your packet, as was distributed on page 18, you'll find my memo to the commission about the review process and of such. And for the record, the review committee consisted of Commissioner Galbraith, Commissioner Allen Edwards, Superintendent Hardy, Superintendent Smart, Assistant City Manager Withrow, and myself. We each individually reviewed and scored. There are key, then those were compiled to arrive at an average score. Then that committee met to discuss those scores and the rankings. Based on that evaluation process and the recommendation of the committee is that this commission authorize members of that committee, along with the city attorney, to negotiate with 2 separate respondents, one being Strand Engineering and the other being HMB Engineers, to formalize a scope of work related with Strand to the wastewater system and with HMB to the water system. The thought process on that from the committee was both of those entities have extreme long-standing knowledge and information of not only those areas and projects, but also with the city of Paris specifically for those departments and projects. And also in the future, should we bring a recommendation back to go forth with projects and would have to seek external state and federal funding grants. There's some recent legislation or recent decisions that have been made, especially in regards to federal funding, that somebody that participates in the engineering may be prohibited from bidding on the actual project. And so by dividing these up, that doesn't preclude one company from bidding on something else in the future. So that is the committee's recommendation, is this body authorize members of that committee to formalize a scope of work along with the city attorney. My recommendation is that the commissioners that participated and Assistant City Manager Mr. Withrow in those negotiations. Is there anything else I need to do? So that would entertain a motion to such, if that is the pleasure. We have a motion. So we have a motion and a second to authorize Commissioner Galbraith and Commissioner Allen Edwards, Assistant City Manager Mr. Withrow, and City Attorney to negotiate with Strand Engineering to formalize a scope of work related to the wastewater system evaluation and assessment, and HMB engineers to formalize the scope of work related to the water systems. Once that is formalized, it will become, the formal recommendation would come back to this body for official action. So, with that motion in a second, is there any additional questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Without any other old business to come before the body, we'll move on to new business action items. First is the rental of City Hall vacant office space. And also in your packet on page 19, you'll see that my memo to the commission related to the space that was vacated by Wedco earlier this year. It's on the second floor, approximately 1,500 square feet. We do have an interested tenant. They are in the medical profession. They are agreeable to the terms as we had in place with the previous tenant, which was a payment of $1,200 per month. The rent would include the power, the light, heat, the air, the water, and the sewer. The rent does not include the telephone cable or internet. The initial term of a contract to commence at the time agreeable to both parties and run through June 30th of 2021, with the option of either party to terminate the arrangement with 30 days notice. The renter would be responsible for any costs associated and all costs associated with cleaning of the space rented and the disposal of thermal trash. And the city would be agreeable to perform at city expense certain renovations to include door installation and painting. That is common to what we've done with other rental agreements in the building. It is the recommendation of the staff for the city commission to authorize the city attorney to draft a standard rental agreement that is in alignment with other rental agreements that we do have currently and existing with renters and tenants of this building. Answer any questions that you may have. If none, do we have a motion to authorize the city attorney to draft a standard rental agreement in relationship to what's been explained?
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We will notify that party and we'll move forward with that. Thank you. Next item, in your package, you'll find a memo that starts on page 20. This is a memo related to an employee request for reimbursement. Just over the last several years, the commission, as a seated body, has authorized the purchase of contracts for lateral hires in the police department. We've been made aware through this request of Officer Sanford that when he applied for a position with the city and in his conversations with then police chief, he was informed that the city did not offer a contract purchase opportunity. He wanted to return to the city of Paris, wanted to work for the Paris Police Department, so he took out a personal loan to buy out his contract from his previous employer, which was the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. That information is also included in your packet. The initial cost that he was required to pay out was $15,908.29. He took out a loan to cover what his personal finances would not cover at that time. His request is for the commission to give consideration to reimburse not only for those expenses, but also the additional expenses that he incurred for financing that personal. In my conversation with the city attorney, legally, you're not prohibited from honoring his request. Also, in the conversation with the HR director, we looked back in that same time frame to see if there might be another team member that was in a similar situation. To our knowledge, in any documentation that's in the files, there is not another team member. So this seems to be an isolated incident from that time. You also have the letter on page 22, from Mr. Sanford outlining, his request and how it occurred on that. It is within the commission's legal authority to, as I said, notwithstanding, to look at this request. We'll make note, if you'll look on page 21, it is the third bullet point on page 21. In my conversation with our HR director, she had conferred with the state retirement system about this matter, and at the time of the writing, the state retirement system had indicated that this would not be considered credible compensation, and therefore would not require the city to pay any additional monies into the state retirement system for this transaction. However, subsequently, in her conversations with the state, and I'll let her explain in more detail, that is still the understanding. However, we would have to make a formal application for consideration of that. Aaron, is that correct?
Yes, we have to fill out a form 7250 and basically formally, once we approve, formally request that it be considered a lump sum payment and not credible compensation.
I was wondering, personally, I was wondering how in the world, if this was included in a W-2 or something, how in the world would you break out, how would they're going to look at a gross of a W-2 and say, hey, wait a minute, hold on just a minute, you owe X against this gross, and then you'd have to say, oh, no, somebody, so-and-so says, or you got to deduct X number of dollars from that, and they're going to say, yeah, sure, right.
And we already do lump sum payments without this form, but because it's a different category.
Right.
It has a form, basically. And they didn't inform me of that the first time I talked to them.
I was going to say, because you would assume this is on a state level, this is not the first time something like this maybe has happened.
Correct.
And would it be more advantageous then if you spread it out or over a multi-year period?
I don't think so.
I don't
Well,
think so.
in conversations with Brad about that, also there would, number one, and Brad, I'll jump in at any point, this would be taxable compensation to the employee. And however, and Brad made a good point in our conversation, is that if you did spread it out, then if you're looking to try to make the parties similar to being whole like they were if we were doing a lateral transfer where we would pay their contract out directly to another agency, by dividing it up, if there was a separation, you wouldn't be achieving that goal. I don't want to put, if that conveyed that
Yeah, 'cause,
thought.
I mean, I think if we do this, it was kind of understanding that there'd be another kind of like an agreement to, if there's a transfer to another police department, that police department would be required to reimburse us
Sure,
for that.
there'd be a new contract.
Right. But I think spreading that out over multiple years, this particular individual is not going to feel that advantage if it gets spread out over multiple years, because it's kind of on an annual look at it being forgiven type thing, whereas if it's paid up front, I think you can enter in that contract, and if he does leave, then that gives the city a better request to get that reimbursed.
Yeah. Oh, so that's good for the city.
Yeah.
And I guess my other concern is how did this happen? And maybe that's something we'll have to look at, because if this is unique and all of those kinds of things, it should not have. Should it have happened? And if it should not have happened, how are we going to make sure we don't do that again?
Well, the answer to the back end of that question, since I was not involved initially.
I think the previous chief just said no when they asked, hey, what are the chances of my contract being bought? Slim and none. We're not doing it.
And
then we turned around this commission for newer commissions bought out.
Yes, we had done
Yeah,
it before.
I was going to say, we just bought one out from Carlisle.
Just
bought a guy out from
before
Carlisle.
that, back up.
Yeah.
Right. So state law has changed, and since 2017, the state law does require a full buyout of those contracts and some other provisions. And no, Paul, I mean, is there anything that you want to, if you come forward.
I would assume, Paul, that your contract with Jefferson County was more than, let's say, the 15. You signed a contract that was 30 or some other number, magic number out there, and then you worked it off during that period of time. This is not a gross buyout. This is a buyout of unused years off of a 5-year contract or a 3-year payback or something. Is that?
Yes, sir. That is correct. I had worked there for about 1.5 years, so I had worked down at that time, and I don't know what they're doing now, but it was you worked as you go, so you worked off your contract.
Almost about a month. It sounds like it's almost about a month.
And Brian's got.
See, now the statute's different than that, too.
Yeah.
The statute in 2017, I believe, is the year changed to where there is not, it is a full buyout. So you can choose.
Prorate. You can choose to continue to prorate it over the months, or you can say as an employer, as a city, this was our investment and this is what we won.
Right.
And so it's up to the cities to choose, but now we have the option to not prorate those
So
months.
it's kind of like, anyway, it's almost like a negotiation, because I think technically we negotiated with Carlisle, because I think originally there was a higher number thrown out, and then when push came to shove, we'll take 10.
We did.
You're right.
Right. So,
I just don't want,
I don't know
right.
what else to
No,
say.
exactly. Yes,
Any
right.
other way, but
Well,
anyway, it's
And we
since,
researched.
and we did research, and since, since we've begun this, at least from my knowledge, is that since I have been appointed, any laterals that we are contract buyout, we do that contract buyout with the agency that they are moving from. And so, that is a policy and procedure that we do follow.
Sure.
well, I'd like to offer the motion that we honor his request.
And I'll second that.
For clarification purposes,
So there's two parts to it.
Okay.
One's the principal, and second is the amount of interest that he had to pay to get the loan to reimburse Jefferson County. So just, it would be best to.
I want all of it.
All of it.
so, and I believe that amount was 19,200 and some odd.
$39.45.
I couldn't remember.
I think all those.
Now, so we have a motion and a second. It is staff recommendation.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay,
You go ahead, no, you got the.
But that this is on a 3-year contract basis.
There you go.
That is the other part. Just want to make sure that the understanding there. That's the recommendation of staff that we do, and I had the conversation with Paul about that, and he was comfortable signing a new contract. His whole intention is to stay here with us.
That's correct. I love the city, and it's giving back to me, and I want to be here for
We
it.
wanted to stay.
That's right.
I was gonna say,
Do you want to make sure we make it clear that I move that we honor his full request, including the new contract. Will that make it?
I think Aaron.
Yes.
okay. Now,
That was the second, too.
okay, the other question that I have, Aaron,
Yes.
on that form 77, whatever,
7250.
okay, 7250, does it also reference anything about the spiking?
We're asking for them to consider this non-credible compensation. So when I report the wages to the Kentucky retirement system, those wages will not exist.
Okay, that's fine, okay, so it takes out the spiking.
Correct. The same as if an
Right
employee,
here.
if an employee retires and they have a vacation payout, that compensation is not credible and therefore not reported to the retirement system.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That money's coming out of your budget, right?
It is.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
We, Acting Chief Thomas and I had already had that conversation, and he understands that it will
It's
be
coming
charged
out.
out of the police department's salary.
It's coming out Monday.
We are not going to be Scrooges at this time.
Speak for yourself.
So we have the motion and the second. Any additional questions or comments? And again, just for that, just Paul, you know, that it will be a taxable benefit to you personally, and you won't have to, you know, and so that'll. You know,
Taxes will be held out and
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards.
Approved.
Motion carries.
I want to thank you all very much for even the consideration. I know y'all have to do a lot of research and look into it, and I really appreciate it. I look forward to working and getting back out on the
Happy to
street.
see you retire here, Paul.
Well,
If we can get that
we
far.
appreciate you being such an important part of our team. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
we're sorry for the oversight and things like that, so anyway.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, next is item C, approval of a contract with Kentucky Utilities for the industrial park lights. Mr. Withrow.
In areas of the city that are not served by City of Paris Electric, we typically contract with Kentucky Utilities to provide outdoor lighting. This specific particular contract is for Phase 2 of the industrial park. It's going to allow for some 27 lights, and we just need approval for the mayor to sign the contract with KU that will go forward and be $642.52 a month.
54 cents a month.
54.
So do we, the request is to authorize the mayor to sign a contract for outdoor lighting services with Kentucky Utilities.
Motion.
Have a motion.
My motion
and a second.
approved.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
We ain't got any other option, no, really, do we?
No, we do this, I mean, we made the decision years ago that the city would provide street lighting throughout the town, and in areas that we can't provide it, we look to KU and sign contracts with them, and we pay that lighting bill.
So that's the park out there.
It's the industrial
Yes,
park.
it's the back part of Cleveland Drive and Hangar Right.
Jim Hunt Way.
Jim Hunt Way.
Yeah.
Cleveland Road. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Also in your package, you'll note there is from the Department of Public Works request to surplus a number of items, a few to be sold by auction and a few to be sold by disposal with not having any value. It's the pleasure of the commission to declare the items as presented as surplus.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second. You got it.
Aye. So any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Approved.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
And what would these, on the auction over there, how would that look?
Our standard auction
Is LT, but the disposal will probably take to stuff's as scrap metal.
Okay.
All right. Also, our next item under new business, recommendation to hire full-time firefighter EMT. Ms. Morton?
We have recommendations for 3 firefighter EMTs. We had 19 applicants, 10 of which were called in for interviews. Of those, we'd like to recommend hiring Ronald Birchfield, Caleb Sholin, and Tyler Kitchen. They're all EMTs and now have current CPAT, so they can get to work right away. And this is result of 3 immediate turnovers that we had in November.
So why do we have the turnovers?
We had 1 retire, 1 moved to another county, and 1 moved to Lexington. And that's on my monthly
Well, when he went to
report.
Lexington, he actually went to UK Hospital
Yeah.
for educational purposes. His was, he wants to be a doctor. So he's started the medical school. Actually, his words to me, I'll be back working for the city of Paris as medical director when I get my doctorate.
Doctor.
So we have
I mean,
you have the recommendation for the 3 hires, and those hires offer is contingent upon completing the physical exam, the drug screen, and the review by the Office of City Manager.
And when we're vetting these people, I get concerned sometimes because when you're interacting with all kinds of people, sometimes people don't know how to interact with people who are different than they. And how do we vet that? Because, I mean, I'm looking at some of these people and I'm like, I don't know. How do we vet that?
I mean, we do backgrounds, we do a lot of personality questions in our interview process. I mean,
Also have a probation period.
we also have a 12-month probation if they don't.
Just didn't work out.
Okay. Thank you. And that personality test looks at with
Well, it's
diversity issues and that kind of stuff?
I mean, it's not a test, because
Okay.
we do ask a lot of personality questions. How do you know? How
Do we ask diversity questions? How to get along with
how,
people?
like, what type of person do you find difficult to get along with, and how do you deal with those situations? I'm happy to share.
Do we do any implicit bias kind of looking at people?
Not currently.
I just know that when you're interacting with people who are different and you have some preconceived notions and beliefs, it becomes difficult for the person on the receiving end. I'm just concerned.
And we're all different.
Yeah.
So, there is a recommendation here, and just for recording purposes, let's take these one by one so we have them on the record. So we have the first one, the recommendation, is there a motion to approve the conditional offer of employment to Ronald Birchfield?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards.
I'm going to abstain.
Motion fails.
No, carries. Two, yeah. She's here, she abstained, so abstain goes with the majority.
Yeah, it moves with the majority, doesn't it?
All right. So, the recommendation of Caleb Schulten.
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Abstain.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the recommendation of Tyler Kitchen.
So moved.
And second.
Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen Edwards,
Abstain.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Again, all three will move on to a contingent offer, including physical exam, drug screen, and the Office of City Manager review. Thank you. Is there any other new business or action items to come tonight? Hearing no.
We can't. We've got a special session.
Well, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good call. Before the attorney had to remind me of that. We'll move on to our.
I was
financial-
testing to see if Stan was on. He was.
That's right. So, financial business, approval of payment of invoices, Brett?
On page 29, you'll see the listing for the general fund payables. We'll need approval for $168,751.32. On page 30, you'll see the utility payables. Need a motion to approve for $129,067.26.
You've heard the approval of payment requests by Mr. Oglander. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Please note that a large portion of both of those, the one in the general fund of $75,000 of the $168,000 and of $68,000 in the combined utilities of $129,000 are for payment to Kentucky River City's insurance services. It's a portion of our annual. I think we break that up into 5 payments or 6 payments next year.
Yeah, we're down to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards.
Approved.
Motion carries.
And overview of our outstanding accounts payable.
Sure, so on the open invoices, you'll see general fund runs from page 31 to 33. Got a total of $111,398.72. And then starting on page 35 and 36, you'll see the utility fund for total right now of $97,644 or $654.36.
Any questions? Thank you. Move on to our report section of outside agencies, and we'll have tourism.
You want to sit here, or do you want to come?
Let's have another parade this weekend.
I've been informed that I have 1 minute. From a couple of the guys in the back, because I've got a lot of notes. So just for that. It could be longer than
Before you get started with the report, would like to acknowledge Betty Ann's hard work and dedication this past week, everything that she's done. I know that I've shared that with you through electronic correspondence, but for public record, with the folks from NBC that were here, and they, I don't know that I did share, the little known tidbit was that they were looking at multiple communities and coming in. And then after the conversation with Betty Ann, she convinced them that they need to focus solely on Paris. That's what Barrett told me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I appreciate that, but it was very easy to sell Paris. And then I did promise them if they would come, I would drive them down the Christmas parade in my green pickup truck. I think that pushed it over. I'm not really sure, but.
Was that 7 a.m. pontoon ride?
It could be. It's been a pleasure and probably the best time I have had as tourism director working through this, because it's been so exciting, and it made me so proud to see them talking to our town people and everybody sharing with them why they love Paris. I mean, it's just been very heartwarming, and I think that it will change us all in a very good way and inspire us all to do better. But to start off with, they got here last Tuesday, and we had a meet and greet at Hartfield, and I had already told them a lot of stories and put them in touch with a lot of people to talk to, and they told me that they got 10 new stories that they were going to have to go back and regroup just from that meet and greet. They started out on Stoner Creek in 25-degree, 7 a.m. morning fog, looking for a beautiful sunrise shot, which I think they got. They've been to Main Street, they've been to the top of the courthouse, they filmed all the Christmas parade, they were so excited about that. They've been to Claiborne, Cane Ridge, Runnymede, Paris High School. They went to church at 7th Street Christian Church this past Sunday morning. And Barrett said that, and talking to Jerome were two of his favorite things about Paris. They've been to the newspaper office. They interviewed Ivan, I believe, didn't they? Yeah. And we had a farewell dinner for them, and they had nothing but nice things to say about Paris. They love Paris. They looked on Zillow to see if they could find a house for sale because they wanted to move here. That's how much they like it. They talked to lots of interesting people, and the show's name is Big Name, Small Town. So we will look forward to getting their film. They're going to send it to me first so that I can share it with everybody that was in it before it previews. And Barrett, who was the creative director, he left yesterday. 3 of them are still in town today. 2 of them are leaving this evening, and tomorrow Scott will be here to just film the final top loose ends. And I believe he's coming here in the morning, from what I understand, to interview the mayor and Lauren at the chamber. So he'll be in the building. You'll know who he is. He has a coonskin kind of fur hat that he bought the other night with the tourism pins stuck right in the middle of it. So they've been very professional. They've been friendly. They said they didn't know that any place like this existed. They said they're down on the street, people are waving at them, speaking to them. They really have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed having them here, and I've enjoyed seeing everybody share with them as well.
And it's not too surprising, they're from New York and California.
Yeah.
So let's face it, Paris looks pretty good.
Yeah, they said they were, when they get off the plane to go into LA, they said nobody's been even paying any attention to them. So they did get a lot of attention, and Barrett, who's the creative director, said it really had changed their life. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Hopefully NBC will move forward with it.
Yes.
And then it's not more the show.
Do what?
Stop.
Yes, and Anna gave them all shirts that said, "We, y'all, I've been to Paris, Kentucky." And Scott's been wearing his around showing it to everybody, so they'll take that back with them. They asked me if I would send them the big sign that said NBC Farewell Dinner, sponsored by Tourism and Chamber. And Lauren did get Traditional Bank and Hinkle to pay for that as sponsors. And they were so touched by that sign, they were going to take it back and put it in their office. They work out of Universal Studios, so that's my report. I could go on, but I won't.
Again, thank you for your hard work on that and
Thank you
all
for a
that
good
you
week.
do. Also would like to recognize Betty Lynn for an idea that she brought to fruition on Main Street. We do have a business owner that is looking at beginning some repairs, and for a while has had a piece of plywood over, and Betty Ann was able to secure a banner to cover that up and make that look a lot nicer than just a blank piece of plywood.
And that's going to be, they film that, so on the building where Ralph's coming, he had a big piece of plywood on his window, and I said, "Can you please put me a window in there before these people come?" And he said, "No." I said, "Can we do a mural?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." Well, we didn't have time to do a mural, so CWF Products printed the big banner with the tourism, says Paris, Kentucky, Horses, History, Hospitality, and he did say they got a shot of that. Sparky put up one flag for me and one of the banners that say "Welcome to Paris, Kentucky," so that they could get a shot of that. They apparently laid under the Eiffel Tower and took a picture of time lapse of clouds going by. He said, "I think you're going to be proud." So I happy about that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have Lauren's report,
Okay.
if you want to. Lauren just asked me to tell you all that YPG Holiday Open House is tonight at Hartfield and Company, and you all are all invited to come if you'd like to. If you came to the Christmas parade, you know what a success it was. The tree lighting after was a success. It's all documented because it's all on film. Oh, and speaking of documented, Bobby Shiflett documented the film crew. So we'll have pictures and things of the film crew as they were talking to everybody. Healthcare Day for Youth Leadership is this Thursday. That's all she asked me to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon, update us on EDA activities.
Well, to my surprise, this morning I had a meeting with AgTech Scientific, and they had a press release today where they have purchased ColorPoint. So, Paul, I'll get that link to you. You know, if anybody knows Mike French, he talks 90 miles an hour. You have to kind of put the brakes on him. They've even got more things in the works as it relates to their products that they're going to make with the hemp oil. So he was all fired up more than he ever was or has been. So they're really looking forward to, as of last Friday, to it'll all be under one roof, under one name. but the Van Wingerton family and children continue to work for them. The second item I have there is on March the 11th, we're going to do a job fair at the Kentucky Training Center to include Bourbon, Paris, and Nicholas County Schools. And the main company will be CMWA. They're going to start putting 50 people at a time, hiring new employees there for their expansion so they can work parallel with existing employees. So they're going to start in July, and every 3 months hire 50 people till they get up to their 200 mark. So that's good news. So we're going to finalize that this coming Monday. And the third thing is our presentation of our strategic planning for EDA is going to be on February the 13th at Mustard Seed Hill. We finally, after Stan's approval, we finally got the final plan to paper. So that's about all I have at this point. I guess now that you've approved, thank you for approving the street lights. So we'll proceed with that, and everybody will be happy.
Any questions of Gordon?
Wasn't this a job fair that was gonna take place in January? I'd heard something about a job fair that they were gonna start for CMWA.
Well, we tried to set it up, and CMWA couldn't work that on their end. We wanted to do it in January, but we had to move it to March. And believe it or not, Matt Cook came up with the idea of Kentucky Training Center, which is good. It's really large enough to accommodate students, the buses, and potential employees. So it's going to cost some money, but Stan said we could do it.
We got that kind of money.
They are already hiring.
Gordon?
We've lost.
And so, are they looking for skilled laborers or?
Not necessarily.
You talking about CMWA?
Right.
They're looking for all
type.
Yeah.
We've already lost at least one city employee that went out there. But he learned really quickly.
It's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. You got to work.
Gordon, you mentioned.
No, I should say that. That came out wrong.
Some of the conditions you work around.
That's right. The
Like
conditions
110
under
degrees.
140 degrees or some crazy thing like that.
Gordon, you mentioned with the announcement of AgTech buying ColorPoint and them all being on one roof, what does that mean? Does that mean that the facility they just built in the industrial park is going to be shuttered, or going to be put up for sale?
No, it's going to continue to be. I'm sorry. What I meant was they've got the drying facility at Color Point now. It's going to remain there, and they're extracting at Color Point as we speak. But as soon as we get some of the design changes worked out at the facility in the industrial park, we'll be moving everything back over there as it relates to extracting hemp oil. And then they're also going to some degree, I don't think he totally understands that I don't think they can do what they want to do, but that's not for me to say. As far as USDA has given approval on making products in that building along with the dry hemp, maybe they can work out something to isolate it, build some more walls. But he said this morning they were it authorized Gray to do a $2 million design change on this facility, and that they don't think didn't cost but $3 million. So that's a big change.
Yeah, they'll have to go back. Well, I just wanted that point of clarification when you said that. I wanted to make sure that people didn't think that place was being shut down.
Right, no.
And then they will still be hitting target numbers of employees
Right.
at that facility.
Right. Right. And that's a good point. I guess at some juncture, we all know they use a lot of Hispanics. and I would assume that, it sounded like to me that at some juncture they would be terminating those folks and hiring, and going through the screening process. They've got, of course, Color Board already had HR, but anyway, they're merging all that, the HR, accounting, and I cautioned them about incentives as related to payroll tax. So I think that's one of the reasons they're going to do away with Hispanic workers and start all over.
So when you say Hispanic, are you saying migrant workers, or you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what you, okay.
All right, thank you. No other outside agencies to report. We'll move on to city staff reports. Acting Chief Thomas from the Police Department.
I just got a couple things. We did make a conditional offer to a couple of gentlemen to go ahead and move forward on their polygraph test in Richmond. And Aaron's already scheduled that. So we'll be next scheduled January or Wednesday. So we'll know something about the first of January. And the only other thing I had is we have Shop of the Hero next Friday, the 20th at Walmart, starting at 5:30. So I encourage some of the folks to come out, and it's 85 kids from Paris and Bourbon County schools that will be getting gifts and clothes for. So if you have some time, Friday will be the day. That's all I have.
Did you have enough, did you have the same amount of money or more than you had last year and the year before that?
We raised quite a bit of money.
Okay.
I think this year we're at $20,000 this year. So.
Okay.
So
Came up to me a few years ago, it was like $150 a child.
It is.
It's kind of.
It's $150 a kid.
Yes, yes. Good.
Thanks to the Christmas party.
So, Chief Duffy.
First, thank you for going ahead and hiring the people for my department. We're still a couple people short. We'll hopefully have those caught up soon. We did try to take possession of the new truck, of the engine. It's at Station 2 now. They're working on getting it equipped. Finley Fire will be in to do a training session on that next few weeks, and then we'll be putting that truck into service once we get the training done on that one. Other than that, that's it.
Any questions for Chief Duffy? Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Karen?
Just a couple things. You'll see in my report, our service anniversaries and our open positions, but some good news is we got, yesterday we received a safety grant from Kentucky League of Cities for $3,000 that we applied for in the fall. That's the full amount of the grant, and it was for we used our back truck that we got for wastewater as our equipment purchase. So that was a nice little win this week.
I forgot to mention, excuse me, I told Aaron here a while ago, every year we apply for the LBAR grant to give to an industry, and we applied for it, and they sent me the check this week for $2,000, and I'm going to give it to Hunts to utilize as an installation of their IT equipment.
And LBAR stands for?
Lexington Board of Realtors.
For those that were not familiar with that. So, thank you.
I have a question,
Yeah.
a couple with Aaron.
Yep.
Did we, on your turnover and exit interview details, it says resigned pending charges. So how did that turn out?
She resigned.
She resigned.
She resigned?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, it's not something we're going to hear.
No.
Okay, that's fine. And then, I think I was up here a week or so ago, and did, this one vacancy we have in the Public Works, was that ever filled?
We've done interviews, and we were going to throw a wider net.
Okay, all right.
So.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. No other staff reports. Stephanie's staff you want to mention the number?
Makes me switch.
No, it's great.
We've, I'm thinking 76% now received on property taxes for the month. Normally, we're around 33%. Partially it's due because we offered the discount this year that is utilized. We did get a business license mailed out. Those renewals are coming in. We're getting ready to start collecting the quarterly payroll tax will be coming in. Also today, the last 2 weeks has been spent with the auditors, so they're completing the audit. We did make a visit to Richard Eads' office today, and we will be visiting the PDA tomorrow with the auditors. I think that's pretty much the gist of taxes and audit.
Stephanie's being a little bit modest there. That, while by this body's taking the staff recommendation to offer the discount, was greatly received by the public. And it did allow the staff not to be slammed at the end of December into January with other things. But there were some very, very, very busy days that Ms. Settles and Ms. Rowe worked very hard, and some of our clerks in the window to process all of those as they came in. But I think that's kudos to the commission for taking that step to offer that discount, and it was well received by the public. I think those numbers will attest to that.
Can we look at that discount, is it in terms of if you pay with your debit card or whatever, because it's not really an advantage, is it?
Well, the city definitely can look at that. I mean, the discount does extend to the credit card. I mean, those that pay with credit card still get that option for that discount. However, they still are charged a fee by the provider. Now, the commission could say that they want to waive that fee, but that means that that's less revenue.
You're going to eat the fee.
You're going to eat the fee on the commission side. I would say that it may be balanced out to where in the past, they actually still get a discount, but it overwrites or covers the cost of that fee, possibly. But definitely something that the commission can look at.
And I can pull a report. We really didn't have that many that paid with credit card. I mean, less than probably 30. But I can pull you those numbers.
They already know that they're.
It tells you there's a fee. But I can pull a report.
But yeah, definitely something that can be looked at in the future for, for that. Again, it's a revenue. It's whether or not a loss of revenue for the city, and just continue. And actually, the credit card fee, I don't believe, at least on the utility side, the fee that's charged doesn't cover 100% of the fees that the city is responsible for in administering that.
When we changed a while back, we noticed we were at about $50,000 a year that we were eating. That's why.
Yeah, but I get my Sky Miles, so I don't care.
Right. Your points?
This is true. This is true.
Brad,
That's you.
Yeah.
No, just what Stephanie said. I've been working with the auditors last week and a half, and hopefully we can have them out of here maybe Thursday, Friday, Monday at the latest. But
And we're
working with them.
And we're still on schedule for them to come back the first meeting in January to report.
Yeah.
Oh. Good. Right. Mr. Withrow?
Just would let the mayor and commissioners know tomorrow morning from 7 to 10, we'll be serving breakfast to all the city employees, and you're invited to be there too.
I will. And if
you want to come at 6 and help.
We'll take help in the kittion.
Yeah.
If you want
Dennis Crystal told me I had to be there at 4.
Yeah.
4. You're going to be there at 4.
I gave her a 4 o'clock notice to make it 6.
She'll be outside for a couple hours. Gather key with Peter.
You did have a couple other department reports in your packet. One on page 40 was the water treatment plant. With the updates there. Next page was the water loss. We continued to work on that at 16% for this past. Looking at that, so you're definitely making some headway on that. But if you look at page 42 of your packet, did want to note that we did receive from the Energy and Environment, Cabinet Department of Environmental Protection from the Commonwealth about the water sanitary survey that the Division of Water conducted. And it is, as their terminology, Paris Water Works is to be commended as they did not have any deficiencies as part of that survey. So that's the language directly from that letter.
I have one comment though.
Yes.
It says here the division recommends having a formal contract with the Harrison County Water Association.
We have.
We did.
Could they not find it?
I didn't, they asked for the formal contract with Kentucky American.
I think that at times they look to
Standard.
they do evaluation and they may just didn't
Okay, 'cause
check that in their files. But we have informed them that we
I
have.
thought that was the case, that we had a contract, but I thought, okay. They say they insinuate we did not.
They recommended and we complied previous to their recommendation.
Whether we have them out, they pay or.
Yeah. So there were several division recommendations in that letter as well. So. And that Superintendent Smart is already working on some of those. Also, the Electric Department has their report in there and continue to replace the street security lights as part of the changeover to LED. This past month, they completed 23 of those. There's several other department reports in there that if you've got any questions, I'll answer. But the last one of your packet is a report of breakdown of utility customers for November. It talks, so in November, we had a grand total of 5,704 billable customers. So that is, some of that does include food, because some of that's just water, some of that's electric, some of that's water and electric. And we did have 110 new services established in the month, with 24 that finalized out. And then you also see on the back side on page 50 of the outstanding accounts receivable balance in relationship to our utility fund. And the total accounts receivable balance, which it does include the 11/27 billing of a current of $861,037.53, with 70,000 of that 90 plus. And so we continue to work on trying to recapture some of those funds. Brad, is there anything you wanted to mention about that?
Now, I guess probably when you look at that 200,000 for the outstanding balance, that is what we deem to kind of be current collectible. I know we have another report. We have another report that we can run that's got everything that's past due, which is a larger dollar figure, but it's still tracked within the system. And as people want to make payments on that, obviously it comes off of that. So, but the 994 is what we always try to deem to be collectible. So.
And then also for the month of November, we did issue 952 past due notices. So those were bills that were not paid by the 15th of the month. We did have 113 cutoff notices that were issued. So after we issued the past due notices, majority of those came in and paid, but we still had 113 that we normal cutoffs, and then 15 with 24-hour notices. And we fluctuate depending on the time of year between 85 and 100 generally on those. That's all. Commissioner Allen Edwards, is there anything that you have to know?
Somebody asked me this the way, and I don't have the answer. So, but they told me that with Rumpke, that they only pick up during October. They only picked up one large piece, and that they charged them $10 if they did that. So I didn't know the answer to that. I didn't know that that was true. And is that the case? They're only picking, because usually in October, in the spring and the fall.
October's heavy trash, and they indicated to us they'll pick up, what's reasonable set out.
What's reasonable?
I mean, you can't fill the block up with stuff, but they usually work with us, and if they can't get it, we help haul it away. But any other time, it's been my experience, you call Rumpke and tell them you're setting out a box spring, they'll pick it up.
I think in their billing, it is a $10 fee, but that is something, if we know the address of that complainant, if you'll share that with me after the meeting or email that to me, I'll look into it and find out. Stacy Rumpke has been very, very good to address those concerns as they've been made aware of. But as part of heavy trash, no, there should not have been a fee.
Because it was during October, she was saying it was October, and they told her they'd only pick up one piece, and.
So we definitely, if we can get that information, we'll look into that. Because that should not have been, from my understanding, that should not have been. Is there anything else, Commissioner? Commissioner Galvin?
You had sent out, you and I had corresponded, I think, late this afternoon regarding Perfection Group, and I would like to, I think we, as a group, our subcommittee or our committee needs to meet prior to trying to meet with Perfection Group, let's say in January or something. So I would think that, I know you got some vacation time coming, I guess, this month, and Mike, I'm sure you do too, and things like that. So anyway, if we can work it out, but I'd like for us to get together as a group, Johnny, and talk about these things before we go in with the Perfection Group. And then, so I guess we're all on the same page that number one priority is this, number two is this, and then already in the mind so that we know that we can work it in the budget, let's say, of various departments.
Definitely can do that.
Because some of the things will be in the general fund and some of them will be allocated in various departments in the utility side too, so.
Definitely, I'll get with the subcommittee and see if we can find a time that's amenable to that. And the Perfection Group is very fluid and flexible.
Okay. Then the other thing is, Aaron, I wanted to talk with you about is our city manager evaluation. What are we?
I'm waiting on 2 more responses, and I got 1 more in this morning. I was just a little behind, but I think the general consensus is to pick 2 representatives, to not have a quorum, and do that.
That's exactly
in the
right.
office.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Once I get those last 2 responses back in, I'll have that for you all to review. So.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mayor?
We're having a neighborhood meeting December 18th at 35 Paris Cafeteria.
West Side neighborhood.
West Side. And Commissioner Peru wanted to know about 7th Street, that sidewalk. So we would talk a little bit about it before. What is the circumstances on it?
That's the responsibility of the building owner to repair. It is coming out right across, it's the new Mexican restaurant, or grocery store, La Road.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Richard, he hadn't poured it yet. He had a sewer problem there, and had to dig it up, and he went to repair it, and they hadn't been inspected yet, so it had to be inspected.
Sometimes it's covered, sometimes it's not.
He had a piece of plywood blocking the sidewalk off, and it blew over. But I'll try to touch base with him to see if he wants for it. It's not too covered.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Allen Edwards? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.